Hello and welcome to another episode of The Living Philosophy. In this episode I want to talk about an idea from the great philosopher Ludwig Wittgenstein, who is almost universally held to be the greatest philosopher of the 20th century. And the one thought I want to explore today is about free will and what he calls an attitude towards free will. And obviously the argument between determinism and free will is a long-standing one in the history of philosophy, and many people don't believe in free will. And that is, I'm not really here to adjudicate on the truth or untruth, the reality or unreality of free will, but what I want to talk about is the implications of believing in free will. And that might seem circular in some sense, but bear with me a second. So if you believe that everything you do is determined either by your environment, your upbringing, if all of these things mean that what you do can be predicted next, that you have no choice and that's determined, then believing that will lead you to take certain actions or not take certain actions because you do not believe you've got control over your life. And certainly in my own experience, believing you have control leads to taking more action. And this is a general psychological principle, I guess, that by believing in your own will, in your own power, you are more effective. And I guess that would be the power of belief leads to taking more action because you believe you will have more success, and then that reinforces the belief and leads to a virtuous cycle. Whereas determinism might say, well, it'll either happen or it won't, and it can often be a sort of fatalism of like just throwing your hands up and being like, I have no power over this. But you can have another attitude, which is a belief in free will, and this is where Wittgenstein talks about the attitude towards free will. And if you just believe you've got free will, then you believe that you've got more power in your life, you will take more action. And even if it's not true, because the thing is that both of these are just beliefs. You've got determinism on the one hand, you got free will on the other. You don't know what's real, and it's just a belief, but by believing in them, they lead to different lives. So the belief itself, irrelevant of the truth. So let's say we live in a world where there is free will, but you believe there's determinism, that leads to certain implications, but you believe there's free will, that leads to certain implications. But let's say we live in a world that's the opposite. It's the same thing. Maybe you were just determined to believe in determinism, but my point would be that having an attitude towards free will and believing in free will, even if you don't know if it's true, even if it was false, believing in free will leads to taking more effective action. So it's a healthier mindset in some sense. It's a more empowering one. And it's the interesting thing of like how a philosophical belief can change the way you live in the world, because that belief in free will or determinism, Wittgenstein has another thing. He talks about the last judgment and people who believe in the last judgment, and they carry it before their eyes because they believe that after they die, the sheep will be separated from the goats, and they will go to heaven or else they will go to hell. And people who carry that image in front of them, it informs their action. The belief changes the way they are in the world, and free will versus determinism is another belief that changes the way you live your life, whether or not it's true. So that's just what I wanted to share with you today, just an interesting thought from the great man Wittgenstein, and I hope you've enjoyed it. And if you have, please subscribe if you haven't already, and otherwise I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching, and feel free to comment. I'd love to hear from you. Any insights or feedback, just let me know. Thank you.